Thank you for joining us. You are a part of a powerful group who recognizes that Black women's health should be at the forefront of the national conversation. We are mothers, daughters, activists, entrepreneurs, entertainers, corporate warriors, and more, who help boost the economy and often drive the national conversation. For almost 40 years, the Black Women's Health Imperative has strived to amplify our voices, help enact policy that protects us, research our issues, create programs that enhance our lives, and produce events like this one to ensure we keep the conversation going about the issues that matter to us most. So, let's get started with our program.
Hi, everybody. It's Erin, the Dish Diva, coming to you from the Black Women's Health Imperative. And joining me today is my girl, Tiffany, from the Wellness Coalition. Hey, Tiffany.
Hi, Erin.
How are you? I'm glad you're here with me today.
I am doing well, and I'm so excited to be back with you.
Yes, it's been a minute, huh?
It has.
Well, I'm in the kitchen once again to show you guys some healthy food hacks. And because June is National Soul Food Month, I'm working with ingredients that have become staples in soul food cooking, but of course, a little healthy spin. So as I'm putting together these recipes, Tiffany and I will touch on the history of these foods and how they became staples in the Black community. All right, are you ready, Tiffany?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. So the first thing, and this was a suggestion from Tiffany actually, is doing a little play on Kool-Aid. So unfortunately, Kool-Aid has gotten this stereotypical thing for Black folks, right? Like this is a drink that we drink. But it was cheap and it is prevalent in like lower communities. But oftentimes you'll see this served at soul food restaurants as well. Now, another like deep South thing that lots of people enjoy is sweet tea.
Yeah.
You like sweet tea?
I don't. And
No?
most people are surprised by that, but I do not like sweet tea.
Oh, and you're coming from Alabama.
Yes.
All right. Well, this might help you enjoy it a little bit better. So what I've done is I created some herbal tea.
Okay.
And this has a blend of like hibiscus, some berries. So it has a really nice, vibrant color, as you will see in just a moment. But I brewed it. I'm going to put a squeeze of lime in there. And you can see this is a pretty big mug. So this is kind of reminiscent of putting that lemon in that sweet tea.
Right.
And then what we're going to do is just pour this into a tall glass. So it kind of gives you that Kool-Aid vibe a little bit, right?
It does.
But instead of having like 2 cups of sugar in it, we are going to add a little bit of liquid stevia. So liquid stevia is a sweetener that's 0 calories, and it comes from a plant. Now, it does have kind of an acquired taste, I would say. But to me, it tastes similar to like what you taste when you drink Diet Coke versus Coke.
Right.
So if we're already used to some of those alternative sweeteners, this might not be so bad. Let's see.
Oh, wow. I have to, there's a, when I gave you that idea, there's a soul food restaurant here that sells Kool-Aid, and I'd never had Kool-Aid in a restaurant before. But my husband, I was like, Erin, you have to remake this, because he says when he drank it, he said that they did not measure the sugar. So that's how he tells you if it's good or not. It's like he can taste it. Yes. He was like, yes, the sugar was not measured and it's delicious.
They just dump it in.
Right. So it's good to have a vibrant, like you said, the color. What color is it? Like a purple? It looks like Kool-Aid.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you kind of get that same vibe. And I think with that added lime juice in it, because it gives you that bitterness, that it kind of hides the taste of stevia. And I'm not a big fan of stevia. I'll tell you, somebody had made brownies with stevia and I could not eat them.
Yes.
So like I said, it's an acquired taste, but I think it works really well with this because you're combining it with that bitter flavor. So you have to try it and let me know what you think.
And I was surprised, Erin, and looking at the research, I would have thought that Kool-Aid originated in the South, but it did not.
No, there was a gentleman that created it as, I don't know, just kind of a drink, a low or a cheap drink to make. And I think it evolved as, more food became more processed, more industrialized. It evolved into having like a lot more food coloring and dyes. And then, of course, add a ton of sugar to appease like the kids, right?
Right.
Hooked on that sugar. So this is a good alternative, especially for the kids. And, with tea being so prevalent in the South, that is a good way to get a little bit more of a health benefit because this is an herbal tea. You've got some things in there like chamomile, the hibiscus. So you're getting some of those benefits from those leaves.
Right.
And there's no caffeine. So sweet tea is generally made with black tea leaves, which have a higher amount of caffeine. Herbal tea, no caffeine.
So you can drink this before bed and it'll be good.
Especially with that chamomile in there.
Right.
Right. Well, now that I got my drink together, go ahead and start with another staple in the Black community, deviled eggs. So deviled eggs are kind of one of those things that appear at all the Black functions, the cookouts, that sort of thing. And it's kind of one of those things that you're kind of waiting for it to show up. Somebody better bring some deviled eggs. Kind of like the potato salad, right?
Right.
And the origins of deviled eggs is actually, it goes as far back as Roman Empire, where they used to boil eggs, mix the yolks with some like sauce of some sort, and then serve it as an appetizer. And then the French used to put horseradish in there. So that's where they coined the term deviled eggs because there was sometimes cayenne pepper in there. And that actually is what they were calling devil because
the heat
and the heat.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting fact. But these didn't really become popular until like the early 1900s. But somehow it's kind of stuck.
Okay, Erin, so you have got to tell me the secret to perfect boiled eggs.
Right?
Is it hit or miss for you too? I feel like sometimes they're perfect and I'm like, I didn't change anything. So let us in on the secret because your eggs look perfect.
Well, let's talk about my eggs because they're not perfect. So if you can see this little guy here, I don't know if you can give it a good look of this one, but it was the only one of the pile. Sorry, it's like white on white, but it was the only one that didn't. It's kind of like I peeled off some of the egg with the shell, and it was the only one in the batch that did it. So I don't even know what to tell you. The way that I do it though is I actually add them to an ice bath immediately after, and I just make sure it's super cold. Put them in so they get shocked. And that helps to peel the eggs from the shell.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. So what I'm going to add in here. So typically with the deviled eggs, we make them with mayonnaise, which is, highly processed, has some like not so good oils in there, high in calories and fat. And I'm replacing that with Greek yogurt. Now, the benefit of Greek yogurt, as if you watch the last year's Dish Diva episode, we used a lot of Greek yogurt. You remember that, Tiffany?
Yes, I do. Greek yogurt, everything.
Yeah. So, and the reason behind that is that it actually not only provides the probiotics, but it still provides that fat consistency, that creaminess that you need, and there's no damaging fats in there. Not, things like soybean oil or canola oil is not in the yogurt. Right. So then you also have, the vitamin D and the calcium that are in the milk that provide some nutrients for us as well.
And that Greek yogurt is going to have more protein too, huh?
And more protein. Yeah, absolutely. And with the eggs, you don't necessarily need the added protein per se.
True.
But in other dishes, yeah, it actually adds to the addition of protein. I did a snack and chat with one of our other coaches who actually gave me this idea. Coach Nikisha, gave me the idea to put the Greek yogurt in here. And I talked to her about putting Greek yogurt in my oatmeal that actually bulk up the protein content.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you taste and is that just plain Greek yogurt you have there?
Yeah, plain Greek yogurt. You want to use at least a little bit of fat, like 2% fat or so, just to kind of get that consistency right. But you can use non-fat. You just may have to play with, some of the proportions. You might have to lower the amount added because it could be a little less thick. Right. So the one I used was full fat, and it's very thick. All right.
Now, yogurt can have the tendency to be a little bitter. Do you taste the bitterness in that? Probably with all the spices you're adding.
Yeah. So one thing the thing is the way I made them is it actually put in some dill pickles, which is even more bitter. But you can also do the sweet relish, but that just has a higher sugar content. And if you need a little bit of sugar added to that, you could absolutely add that. I would say add it in a liquid form, so something like honey or maple syrup. It's going to change the taste a little bit, but if you add like granulated sugar in there, it's not going to dissolve.
Texture. You're right.
Okay.
Crunchy egg.
That in there, yes. So I added some of the chopped onions, red onions, and I added some of the chopped dill pickles. Now I'm going to add in a little bit of smoked paprika. You got to add paprika.
Yes, you do.
And a little bit of pepper. So I'm going to hold off on adding any salt, particularly because those dill pickles, the brine in that is going to be a little bit salty. So we just blend that together, and you can add in more yogurt if you need to. Also being careful with some of the mustard. The mustard is going to give it more of a tang as well. So just be a little less generous with it, and then add a little bit at a time if you want more of that mustard. But you get a nice creamy consistency as you mix it around here. And this could probably use just a tad bit more of the yogurt. So we're going to get all those lumps out of there. And as you can see, I've got my deviled eggs on a plate here. And one interesting fact about these is that when they became popular, deviled eggs became popular in the U.S., most people started getting deviled egg dishes as wedding gifts. Well, the women.
Interesting.
Like an expectation, you got to have deviled eggs.
Right.
Any gathering you have.
So I'm surprised you're not being fancy here, Erin, and you're putting it in a little bag and piping it in there.
Oh, no. No, that's too much work.
Right?
It's way too much work.
I agree.
Some of the recipes I looked at talk about piping it, and I'm like, look.
Right. Listen.
I'm not trying to do some extra work. I'm trying to just put these into the little egg half.
Right. And that's typical of participants, right? And change your lifestyle, change your lives. Like busy women, working women. It's like we've got to get something healthy and delicious on the table quickly.
And that's what you'll see kind of is the theme today is just quick and easy stuff. We're not doing a whole lot of cooking in the kitchen, especially since it's hot outside.
Summer, yes.
Yeah, it's summertime. We don't want to be in the house slaving over the stove. So
absolutely not.
This is very quick, easy, painless. So depending on how you make everybody's deviled eggs are going to be different. There's so many different recipes, so many different additions. I've actually made it before with olives. And so you get that saltiness in there as well.
Oh, I bet that's good.
Yeah. If you love olives, it's wonderful.
I have to try that.
Yeah. But then again, you limit the amount of salt that you're putting on there because obviously the olives are going to have some saltiness to them as well. We want to make sure we're not over salting them. Okay. So now that we have our eggs, it's not the prettiest presentation, but if you want to, you can tweak that just a little bit there.
Yes, and I like to sprinkle a little paprika on top.
Oh,
Hide those. There it is. Hide those imperfections.
I didn't really know the paprika. I was reading one thing and somebody was like, yeah, and of course you can't have deviled eggs without paprika sprinkled over it.
Absolutely.
And they were like, that's the one time that paprika ever leaves the cabinet. So we've got that there. And then I have some fresh dill we can put on some of them. Got some green onions we can put on some of them. You could even use the olives as just a topping to them as well. And maybe just add a little bit of the olive juice to the egg, the yolk. So, I mean, it's just something to play around with. And I think the important thing to remember is that this history of our food and how it became popular in our communities is always evolving. I mean, the history is there, but the food is always evolving, right?
That's true.
I mean, because you have to make it work for your family, your taste preferences, all of that good stuff, right? Otherwise, nobody's going to eat it.
Can
you see that really well?
Yes, I can. Looks delicious.
Try not to slide it off the
plate. Yeah, let's not do that.
I would be so sad.
And I love the color of your plate. It's like it's giving me summer vibes. It's like I'm here for it.
A friend of mine gave me this plate as a way to say, whenever you want to have a meal with me, pull out the plate. I know, since we're so far away.
I know. Oh my God.
So it's like a plate that nobody else is allowed to use in the house. Now, as to know. All right. So I'm going to take a little bite here. I love deviled eggs so much.
Me too. And I'm just going to close my eyes. And everybody who's watching, just close your eyes and imagine that you're there.
Get some deviled eggs with me. Ah, so good. Okay, I'm going to put that out of the way over here. A little sip of water. I'm sorry, sweet tea to refresh my palate. All right, we're going to move on to the corn. All right, so corn has been a very strong staple in the Black community in a lot of different ways. But historically speaking, it started off when the enslaved Black people were, they weren't given very much food, especially for the amount of work that they were doing, 13-hour days, physical labor. But they were able to grow corn, and it didn't require a whole lot of healthy land. It could grow in some very harsh conditions, and it actually helped to feed the enslaved people. So yeah, very interesting fact. And then what ended up happening was a lot of those people actually got some of these traditions of using corn from Native Americans. Those are really, yeah, it's pretty cool. And so that's how like cornbread came to be. They learned that from the Native Americans and the indigenous people in those areas. And what they would do was just mix some cornmeal with some water. They'd wrap it in a collard leaf and then put it on some hot ashes. And that's how they would bake the bread. And so it didn't have any butter. It didn't have a sugar. It didn't have milk. I mean, think about the history of our food and how it didn't really it wasn't high in meat and all these sugars and products. It just kind of evolved that way over time as we were able to have things at our, things available to us. The resources were available to us. So that's my little quick history on corn. So how do you like to eat your corn?
Oh my goodness. I can eat it like not even cooked off the cob. I remember, just being in Alabama in the summer and going picking corn out of the cornfield, and we're eating it as we're picking it. But yes, I mean, and I throw it in the air fryer sometime. We had some Monday for dinner. So it's so sweet and just so good.
It's such a quick and easy snack.
Yes, right? It is.
Well, this, of course, corn always reminds me of summertime and grilling. And I love grilled or roasted corn. Like if I'm at a fair, I find the corn places selling roasted corn and eat that. When my husband fires up the grill, I'm putting some corn on the grill. So what I have here is the corn. And what I've done, though, is added some jalapenos so far.
Ooh.
Some red peppers. And we're going to take it a step further and add a little bit of zucchini and yellow squash to this. So this is a little bit of a corn salsa with a little extra flair because, you know.
Of course. The Dish Diva has to have a little flair, right?
I'm going to pull off. So I grilled. I have a little indoor grill in here, and I grill. So if you can't fire at the grill, indoor grill is a great place to start. And once it's cool, I can chop it up into dices and pretty small. And when I grilled it, I kept it pretty crisp, tender, like it's a little soft in the middle. But I made sure the pieces were thick so that it still had a little bit of crispness to it because you don't want it to get soggy, super soggy in there.
Mm. And so by adding that, you're adding more nutrients?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, you know, this is salsa, of course, is a little bit more of a Tex-Mex kind of thing.
Right.
But if you think about it, you know, in that area of Mexico, they had a lot of indigenous people who influenced the flavors down there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly with corn. And so this is one corn on the cob that I grilled. We're adding some of that into there. I like to cut my corn on the cob in half so that I have a solid surface. Actually shuck the corn.
So it doesn't go flying across the room.
You're like wobbling on this. You might cut a finger off. So, you know, just be mindful of that. Now, I did do a few pieces of grilled corn that I grilled myself. But as we talked about before, being busy people and looking for shortcuts, I actually purchased some fire roasted corn that's frozen. My bag in so if you go to the frozen section in your store, you can find something like this, fire roasted corn, and it's already fire roasted for you. Has that nice grilled taste on it. And you don't have to worry about grilling.
Yeah.
Just that.
And you know, Erin, corn is super inexpensive. Like it's very affordable.
It is, definitely. And it's actually a grain. I mean, some people think of it as a vegetable, but it's actually considered a grain. Okay, so I'm going to add in my zucchini and squash. And so this is actually is a great thing that you can take to a cookout, you know, just to have an additional vegetable.
Yes, and look at all that color. They could be the dish that adds color to the spread when everything's laid out.
Beige.
Right, yes.
All right, adding in some red onions and some cilantro. And, you know, you can really play with a lot of these things that I'm adding in there. You could do parsley instead of cilantro. Maybe even go like on the side of like dill. You could add in something like Old Bay seasoning to help season it up. But what I'm going to do next is add in a little dressing. So the dressing contains some lime juice, some chili powder, salt and pepper, of course. I put in some fresh minced garlic, and like there's one more thing, and some smoked paprika. And so you pour that over here and mix it up, and now you have this dish that and you know what you can do is you could take some kale. I would do kale, like I would do something heartier. Kale is a heartier green, and it can sustain being in a dressing for a long period of time without like wilting and becoming really mushy. You could finally chop up kale and put it in here too. And so then it becomes this really wonderful side dish where you can enjoy it as kind of like you would salsa, you know, get some and dip them in there.
And it's like nutrient dense. Like you get so many nutrients per bite. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's you know, when I think about greens, always trying to find ways to get greens into your meals and your recipes. This is a great way. I mean, the cilantro is going to add that kind of Tex-Mex flavor. but the kale will actually give you a little bit more of that nutrient density.
Right.
Oh, here's my dress. It's right here. Hey, you're in front of my face. All right, so we're going to pour that over here. You can see it's nice and red. Mix that in there. And so, of course, this is one of those things that it's going to taste better the longer it sits. So you'll want to make it the night before the cookout. And you want to make sure that all those flavors have a chance to mingle.
Oh, it's so colorful. Look at those colors. It looks so good.
Look. That's even better than I expected it to be. You get that tang from the lemon, the little smokiness from the paprika. That's really good. I like it. All right. Well, we've got our corn, covered our corn. Put this right here and get these dirty dishes out of the way. All right. So the next thing we are going to do, we are going to actually do some greens. So, greens are definitely a staple.
Yes.
In the Black community. And the reason being is that greens were very inexpensive and easy to grow. And so when the enslaved Black folks were trying to feed themselves, they were able to have their own gardens. And so greens were something that they grew a lot of. And they would also like go out and forage greens as well. So collards, kale, turnip greens, all those typical ones that you hear about. So I did kale. And the reason why I chose kale is because kale is something that we eat a lot of in my house. Not as much the collards and the turnip greens, but kale I have usually is something that's in the refrigerator all the time because I like to chop it up and add it to things like the corn salsa. Clean up my plates here and move on over to this. Another sip of this because...
And something else I thought was interesting, Erin, just reading the history about it and the types of meat that the slaves were given didn't really fit well with being served as a meat. So then they would use that to flavor their greens and their vegetables.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you kind of think about they were actually plant-based eaters. Meat was a luxury. And so they got the parts of the pig, which was really popular. And they actually didn't taste good. So they had to find ways to make it taste better. So even with the meat, they would salt it, smoke it, try to get it to taste a little bit better. But then they also use those parts because they weren't that good to eat to flavor. They would use the fat from those to flavor their greens, their vegetables. And one thing about the greens is that they would stew them in a big pot, and let them cook down. And when you're cooking greens in that manner, you do lose a lot of nutrients into the liquid.
Right.
So I know, when we enjoy greens for the holidays, there's always all that juice that's in there. But 9 times out of 10, we're pouring that juice out.
Pouring it out, yeah.
But that's where a lot of the nutrients are. And back then, they understood that. On some level, they understood that, and they were trying to get themselves full.
Full, right.
So they actually made the cornbread, and they used the cornbread to sop up the pot liquor, is what they called it. That was from inside of that came from boiling the ham hocks or pig's feet with the green.
Right.
Vegetables they were using.
Yeah, and they worked hard, so they needed all that, all those nutrients in that.
Exactly.
And it's
Exactly.
amazing. We still do that now. You have that pot liquor on your plate. You got to have, I know people, it's like, I cannot eat greens without cornbread because you got to be able.
And that's why, that's where it started. Like, isn't it interesting to like learn the history of that stuff?
Right.
So that's exactly where it started. They were looking at ways of filling themselves up. There was a scarcity of food for them. And, they survived off of mainly vegetables. They did some hunting and things like that, but they had to do it at night because they were working 13-hour days in the field.
Right.
So with these greens, what I did was I blanched them, the kale greens. I cleaned them, took the stems off, chopped them up, and I blanched them in some hot boiling water.
And what's the benefit of blanching, Erin?
So it's a quick cook. So it's about 3 minutes that they were in the boiling water. So you're just cooking them quickly so that you can soften them a little bit. Because when you're sauteing them, it takes a while for them to kind of get to a place where they're a little bit softer, a little bit more edible. They don't feel quite so fibrous. And that was the idea behind cooking them for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to put some onions in here. So, somewhat in the way that we cook greens now, I'm going to make this, but we're going to saute it instead of having it as a kind of a stew. And we're not going to use meat.
Ooh.
Yeah. Do you make greens at home?
Yes, Erin, you won't believe this, but there's actually some on the stove now. Some collard greens.
So appropriate.
No meat, vegetable broth. So we'll see what the family says.
Yeah. And then how do you get the smokiness in there? Do you put smokiness in there?
Yes, I use smoked sea salt.
Perfect. Yeah, so the idea behind, the smoked meat like we do now is like smoked turkey, is or the smoked ham hock is that it's adding that smoky flavor, that fat is kind of getting in there and helping to flavor it as well.
Right.
But it's not necessary. So you can still make some greens without the meat like Tiffany's doing and add a little smoked sea salt, smoked paprika. I mean, they have a lot of seasonings that are smoked these days. So if you want to add some garlic, you can do smoked garlic. They have smoked black pepper. So if you find any of those things, those are a great way to add smoke. There's also something called liquid smoke, or like something like this where see that where this is basically water and smoke flavoring. So you can kind of fake it a little bit,
right,
without adding in any of that other stuff. So it's going to be a little bit lower in calories, and you're going to get more of those nutrients from the greens,
right?
Because as you can see, they're still very bright and green, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is real simple. Just I have some onions, some peppers in there. I'm going to add a little bit of garlic, because I'm obsessed with garlic.
That's what I was surprised when you said just a little bit. It's like I was expecting you to dump the whole thing over in there.
I mean, this is a lot that's in here, so I kind of hesitate to do that much, but I will add a little bit more since you said that. That smell of garlic, so good. All right, so I'm going to add my greens in here. And you're going to saute, the onions and peppers down as much as you want. And I like them a little bit more crisp tender.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Me too.
I like to have that little crunch in there. And you can just see how bright these are, right?
I know. They are.
Super bright. And this is the way, if we're eating greens, we want to make sure that they have this brightness to them. And they actually get brighter once they cook a little bit. And so once this gets sauteed in here, we're going to let it sit for just a second. You can add some broth to it, put a top on, let it steam just a few minutes as well, so that you don't have to stand here and saute it. But we're going to add in a little bit of salt, sea salt here. a little bit of pepper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, two basic things, right?
Right. Salt and pepper.
Yep. And like Tiffany said, if you have sea salt, go ahead and try that. And then a little bit of smoked paprika. Add that in there. Now, I also have a tendency to add a little bit of vinegar. Like every now and then. Do you eat your greens with vinegar?
Yes, sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like one of those things, if I feel like it, no, I'll do it this time. If not so much. And because we blanch these, you don't have to saute this for very long at all. I just want to get those flavors mingling in there. And to go back to the garlic, so this garlic that I have, I got one of those big bags from Costco.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about me and my garlic obsession. I got one of those big bags from Costco, and what I did was I put it in a food processor, got it all minced up, and then I mixed a little bit of olive oil in with it, and put it, or avocado oil, and put it in ice cube trays. So now, and then when they were done, I took them out and put them in a plastic bag in the freezer. So now I have these cubes of garlic that I can pull out anytime I need it.
That is gold.
Right. Because you know how long it takes to mince garlic?
Yes.
One of those things is like, oh gosh, just calling for how many cloves of garlic?
Right. And you already have some. I'm going to have to start doing that.
Those big old bags.
It's so bright, Erin. Everything today is so colorful.
Yeah. I love having those peppers in there too, just to brighten it up a little bit more. Okay. Let's see. Got a little piece here. They're still a little firm. I might cook them a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. And like I said, adding in that broth, like if you do a vegetable broth, you can do a chicken broth. I would say maybe a quarter cup at most. You put the lid on, just kind of let it steam a little bit. Mm-hmm. And you're good. And just adjust the seasoning to taste, whatever your taste preference. Now you got some greens.
Yes, and it's quicker than boiling. It's hot.
It's much quicker. Oh my gosh. Like, you know, and I guess one of the good things is like with greens, you could probably put them in the slow cooker.
Right.
And just with everything, and then just leave it, go to work, and come back, and it's done.
Right.
But, you know, if you don't have the time to do that, this is actually a really good alternative.
Right.
Okay. Got a couple more things I'm going to show you guys. And one of them, I really want to kind of touch on this, is because watermelon. So it kind of became like watermelon became this like stereotypical Black food. You know, Black people eat fried chicken and watermelon. So I just want to address that for a second. Because I do have a watermelon tray here. So watermelon was actually a cash crop. So once the enslaved people were free, they were growing watermelon. They were able to make money off of it. So some of the racist white people decided that, you know, this wasn't a good look. And so they decided that they were going to take the watermelon and make it into this racist thing. So they started depicting people in blackface, eating watermelon with their hands, and, you know, posing with watermelon. And in order to make people, the Black people, look less than human, like, oh, they're just so uncouth. They're eating with their hands, and both fried chicken and watermelon kind of got the same rap, right? They're eating it with their hands. They're just, why should we give them rights? Why should they be considered a whole person when they're not even, they're like children? So, you know, I think there's this, you know, cultural sensitivity that needs to happen with the world, this country, where watermelon actually has a deep-rooted history in our successful past. And I think that's an unfortunate thing, is that it's gotten twisted and turned into this negative thing. And so people are always like, oh, Black folks like gotta have fried chicken and watermelon. And this is what they were using to make money. They were feeding people fried chicken and some other stuff that they made at train stations, like after the Civil War. The freed slaves were actually feeding other people and making money. So because that was happening, they had to turn it around on them to make it sound like, these people don't deserve the rights that we have.
Right. Because they weren't eating watermelon.
Right. They were the ones buying it, right?
Right.
And they were eating with their hands too. They were eating with their hands. So, I think that when there just needs to be an understanding of that's a stereotype, because some people don't. Some Black folks don't like watermelon or fried chicken.
Right. Yeah. That's true.
It's unique to us. Like it's something that has been enjoyed, throughout the world. So anyhow, I'm gonna get off my soapbox. And let's talk about some watermelon. Because watermelon was actually a crop that was cultivated in West Africa. I don't know if you knew that. Have you ever heard that?
No.
Yeah. And they cultivated it to make it into this nice sweet fruit, juicy fruit. And so it was brought over through the slave trade, brought over to the United States, and then grown here in this country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there's like a beautiful history of it.
Right.
It's gotten tarnished.
Right.
By like these people putting it, and they were putting these pictures and these articles in newspapers, and so it wasn't just the South that was believing it was like Northern people that were believing this as well. So anyhow, just wanted to do that because I love watermelon and I want to celebrate it. Yeah. For what it stood for our people, right? So I kind of took a take on a watermelon cucumber salad. This is, you can make it as a salad, but the reason why I did it with this platter here is like if you're taking it somewhere, sometimes it's not quite as pretty once you get it there when you have it in a salad form, because I'm going to add just like a tiny bit of salt on top, and the salt actually draws the liquid out. So if you have it in a bowl, in a salad bowl, it's going to have a lot of liquid at the bottom. And there are also a lot of different things that you can do with this. So I've got a couple different variations that I'll talk about, but I have a lime here. Lime on fruit is wonderful. You can squeeze that over here, add the little tanginess there. You could sprinkle some salt over top. And the leaves that you see on there, again, we're adding greens to the plate. Chopped basil and chopped fresh mint.
Oh, that pairs so well with watermelon. Even when the drink, if you put that in some water.
Yeah. So one side I'll do that. One side I'll squeeze a little bit of lime juice over. And then everybody who is picking from the tray can pick, the proportions they want. And then I have a little bit of balsamic reduction. So balsamic vinegar is definitely a little bit sweeter, has a little bit higher sugar content than any other vinegar. And if you put it on the stovetop and boil it down, about half the amount that was originally in there, it gets this nice thick liquid. And so you can do a balsamic glaze, and that pairs well with that basil in there too. Put that over there. How pretty is that?
I know, that's so pretty.
And those flavors just combine so well together. And this is such a great thing to have when it's hot outside. You get that refreshing. Both of these have a high water content, so you're just getting that refreshing feeling and hydrated, and just by eating the food, right?
Right.
So you've got this beautiful thing here. Now, one other thing you can do as well is add a little bit of feta. So this adds a little touch of protein to the mix as well. Pretty, huh?
It is. It really is.
So you can bring this to your next cookout and impress everybody. Like, ooh, look what I slaved over in it. I just cut watermelon in triangles.
And chopped up some cucumber.
Right. Yeah. So, and so you can do different variations of it, but it really plays on that, like, salty and sweet, that savory and sweet with like the lime juice and the cheese or the balsamic vinegar, because it still has that tang to it and a little bit of salt.
Right.
Beautiful, right?
It is.
Love it. Okay. Well, we touched on that watermelon stuff, and I want people to love the watermelon and not be ashamed to eat it.
Right.
Because,
Yes.
and I remember when I was younger, like hearing that, I was like, oh, and I remember thinking, I don't want to eat watermelon for other people because I think that's what I want. Although I loved it.
Right.
I had conflict about it.
Right. Yes.
So unfortunate. Okay. So the last thing I'm going to do, and this is just a little play on banana pudding. So banana pudding, definitely you have the highly processed, high sugar, high preservative like boxes that you can get.
Yes.
But if you're a fan of chia pudding, I would recommend just creating this is a little mason jar. I created a little bit of chia pudding in here.
And did you use like coconut milk or?
Yeah. So my favorite way of making it is with coconut milk. You can see it's got a little thickness to it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'll do is I'll heat it up on the stove just a little bit, like really low, because I like to add honey to it. And so
you want
honey
it to...
is not going to like dissolve into the liquid very easily, especially a cold liquid. So I'll just put it on there just to dissolve the honey. And then chia seeds and milk in there. Let the milk cool down a little bit. Chia seeds and milk in there. Throw it in the refrigerator. And I did a tablespoon of chia seeds, about a quarter cup of milk.
Okay.
And so I have my pudding in there. So this could be like a little snack for you.
Who wouldn't sign up for a banana pudding snack? Because typically you can only eat like a little bit of it because it's so rich. It has so much.
It is. And so this is a great way to still kind of enjoy some of those flavors.
Right.
Without slicing off some banana in here. All right. And I do have a little wafer here. We're just going to crumble it up and use it as a garnish. You still kind of get that flavor in there.
Right.
Now, if you're able to find some that are like whole grain, then that works as well. But you still get that same flavor, right?
Right.
Or you can make some yourself at home. They're not very hard to make.
You have to tell us about that. Never made crackers.
I've made it before. I don't know the recipe offhand, but yeah, I can definitely share some with you. Well, I mean, you're getting all the same flavors in there. You know, and I think for some people, the chia seed is a texture thing for them. So that's not their favorite. You can also blend seeds so you don't have those little seeds. Right. You don't feel that in your mouth. But with that banana in there, it's so good.
I bet. I know when I eat banana, I'm like, hold the banana. Just give me all the cookies and the pudding mix. Just give me the cookie pudding. So bad.
So it's like the cookie becomes the star.
Sure. Instead of not the banana. Yeah. So I'm going to have to try this one. And I have all those ingredients here. So yeah, that's good.
Oh, well, let me put all of my stuff on display here so you can see and let your mouth water a little bit. I'll bring the greens back over here.
So is this lunch, dinner? What time should we get there?
Here in an hour? Come on. Unfortunately, it's a 5-hour flight from California. So, but that's everything that we're talking about today, guys. So I'm happy that you joined us. And we're able to just kind of talk about some of this food and the history.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that this helps you guys with just finding some alternative ways to enjoy some of the foods we love so much in a healthier way. And Tiffany, I thank you as always for joining me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I enjoy being here, and I love it that this helps the participants, right? Because I'm sure a lot of the people watching today are participants of CYL Squared. And so we talk about eating well, right? Eating well to prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. And we have it here. We have our greens, we have our starch, we have protein, we have fruit, like we have it all here. So it's, yeah. So it aligns well. So yeah, I'm always excited to come and learn as a coach and then take that back to participants as well and share, like, you have to try this. So what a joy.
Yeah.
It's
it's always fun to do this too, because it allows me to just kind of explore my creativity with some of the food.
Yes. Yes. Thanks for having me.
If those of you watching are interested in learning about our signature programs, please visit the Black Women's Health Imperative website at BWHI.org. There you can learn about the programs we offer. The one that Tiffany mentioned, Change Your Lifestyle, Change Your Life, also known as CYL Squared, is a diabetes prevention program that has been culturally tailored for Black women. We also have a program that's culturally tailored for Black men called the Men's Room. And just recently, we launched a program to help with diabetes self-management. So please visit the site, learn more, and we hope to see you in one of our classes soon. Until then, let's get eating.